Trish stole my heart as a teenager. So don't tell my wife. Well, my wife's going to see this, but don't tell her that.
I am here to talk to the great Steve Maclin, who went to battle against Nic Nemeth at Sacrifice. But, after a brutal battle, he kind of came up short. But I'm here to speak to the former Impact champion about a wide variety of subjects. Do you think after that brutal battle, both of you took each other to the limit, do you think the feud is over or is there more to come?
I think we're just kind of scratching the surface a little bit. I think for what Nick and I have done in the past few months of getting to that match at Sacrifice, and I got caught with a couple super kicks and then his danger zone in the end. So I got caught, and that's kind of what I leave it up to. And the better man won that night. Obviously, I thought I was going into Sacrifice with a level-headed plan, and we kind of went back and forth of trying to one-up each other, especially with each other's move sets. We'll hopefully get back to that someday. But right now my focus is getting back on track. And this Thursday on Impact, on TNA Impact, it's me in a 6-man tag with the Rascals versus Nic Nemeth versus Speedball Mountain with Mike Bailey and Trent Seven.
Amazing. So, the funny thing is, right before, the last event in Puerto Rico, I had spoken to Nick. I did like a media round with him. And the biggest headline to come out of that event was that you crossed, the sea to go and make your this thing. So what was it like to go to Puerto Rico and, take the fight across international waters?
It was great. And that's the funny thing. It's not really international waters. It's still the U.S. That's the funny part. Everybody thinks it's a different country. Even I thought leaving, I needed my passport. I'm like, wait, we're still in the U.S. But just to be able to have that opportunity and have the Colognes kind of have my back to come down there and just to experience Puerto Rico and then alone kick the crap out of Nic Nemeth was a really good and fulfilling moment in my career, just because that crowd and that atmosphere and just it was a different atmosphere. And I came back and I told a lot of the boys in the locker room, even the girls too, like that it was just a different experience. And that crowd just had so much energy and so much passion for wrestling where I don't know. It was a different atmosphere, and hopefully get to go back here soon. Hopefully TNA can work a deal out there with getting over to Puerto Rico as well.
Amazing. Okay, so do you think there are parallels between your story? I mean, you were kind of lost in the shuffle at the other place that you worked, and now you are on top of the world. That could be the same could be said for Nic Nemeth as well, right? He was always one of the top guys, but again, he's come and he's trying to prove himself in Impact Press in TNA. So do you think there are parallels between both of your stories?
No, I thought going into the story, that was one of the things that stuck in my head creatively was how can we tell our stories and how similar we are, even though he's won the world title and he's a Grand Slam champion there, if you want to say it. And for me, I was kind of a guy that never really got that opportunity, or I was given that opportunity and I never just excelled with it, however you look at it. But I came to TNA and I hit the ground running and I never looked back. And I'm hoping he does the same. And I tried to get it out there in my mind of what I thought Nick would be doing, and he's kind of doing what I said, and he would just be using TNA as a lifeline just to suck the blood out of it and make opportunities elsewhere. And yes, he is making opportunities elsewhere, but it's also putting more eyes on TNA, which I commend him for, and that's an awesome thing to do because TNA is the best wrestling program out there, in my opinion, and I know a lot of people's opinions. It's just getting more word of mouth out there, and we're just hitting the ground running here in this new year from Hard to Kill all the way now till Sacrifice, and now coming up to Rebellion back in Vegas. I'm very much looking forward to the exposure that we keep getting and the more eyes we get on the product.
Segueing off what you just said, he is also doing his deal in Japan, and we know that you are willing to go to Puerto Rico to take the fight to him. Are you willing to go to Japan as well and maybe lead to, another bunch of storylines? Another bunch of dream matches potentially?
Yes, I'm very much hoping to get to Japan someday. That's very high on my bucket list of outside of TNA things to do is to get to Japan, just because of the way it's still respected in the art with New Japan, with Noah, with All Japan, and just those companies just I want to go flourish over there and show my style to that style and have it mesh. And I get told by a lot of people that I would fit in very well there. And I believe in my heart, too, that I would fit in very well there, especially not the strong style of things, but just the fighting spirit that I know I have, being a United States Marine and just being the stubborn-headed man that I am. I think it would be a lot of fun over there.
Amazing. So I am based in India, and TNA Wrestling just signed a new deal with Eurosport. So, do you have a message for your Indian fans? I mean, you have mentioned that how exciting TNA is right now earlier in the interview. Do you want to give them a reason to watch TNA Wrestling?
Obviously, we're getting more eyes on the product and signing a new deal over in India. It's a big deal to management. It's also a big deal to us as talent because you guys are getting to watch us weekly on television on Eurosport. And for us to continue to build a product out there and hopefully that you enjoy, I hope I can take the reins of showing the Indian fan base out there what TNA is all about and bringing total nonstop action and also bringing the mayhem and Steve Maclin.
So let's get to know Steve Maclin a little bit with a bunch of rapid fire questions. Is that okay?
Sure. That's perfect.
Fantastic. Who was your favorite wrestler as a child?
Bret Hart was number one. Stone Cold was number two.
Who is your favorite wrestler today, maybe?
Other than my wife, Deonna Purrazzo, Josh Alexander. He's one of my favorites to watch and also work with right now.
First match you remember which made you want to do this for the rest of your life?
It was the tag team match at Royal Rumble 93 or 94. It was Bret Hart and Owen Hart versus the Quebecers, and it led to the storyline going into WrestleMania 10 with Bret and Owen. It was just one of those stories that, I don't know, I didn't have any siblings, but like I just felt it because I loved Bret, but then I kind of felt for Owen, and I was just like, why is this making me feel this way? I want to do this someday, and I love storytelling, so.
What is a match, maybe, except for the one you just mentioned, that you go back and watch like over and over again?
WrestleMania 17, Stone Cold and The Rock. It's just the build-up, the story to it, and just so much chaos going on within that match. And I just love picking it apart in my brain and thinking of where their heads are at. And then I always watch the finish, and I wish just Austin stunned Vince at that moment. Just because it just felt weird, but it was just curious to see where that was going. But that's one of my favorite matches of all time.
Fantastic, man. When you're not in the ring, what do you do to unwind?
Well, right now I'm finishing up. I have one more year left in college. I'm studying a psychology degree. So looking forward to finish up my degree, especially with the schedule that I'm allowed with TNA. It allows me to kind of really focus on school and on wrestling, both inside and outside of the ring. Most of the time I'm hanging with my family, my dogs. When I'm home, I'm home. I really fully commit to being home with my family, not necessarily shutting off my brain from pro wrestling because that never stops in this household, but it's just good to kind of live in the moment when I am home. I train hard. I just continue to keep on my diet, but mostly a lot of the time it's just relaxing, enjoying family time, and then studying right now to finish up my degree.
Could you tell us more about it? I don't think too many of our viewers know that side of you.
Yeah, so I'm studying psychology. When I was let go from said other company, I was just like, what do I want to do outside of wrestling if wrestling isn't for me anymore? What I knew it was going to, but I need to fall back on something. And I originally, when I got out of the Marine Corps and I was getting into pro wrestling, I started college, and I did about 2 semesters before I got picked up by WWE when I was training full time by Gerald Briscoe. And that was the talent scout who got me at that time. And then I got in, so I stopped school at that time. So my wife convinced me. She says, well, why don't you make use of your GI Bill with the benefits, get done with school, and you can do everything with wrestling while also get paid by the GI Bill. And I'm like, yeah, you're right. Of course, my wife's always right. She's the smarter one in the family on that end. But yeah, so I want to use my psychology degree to at least at some way get into social working, or just with a focus on mental health and helping veterans, and even in the wrestling community, just mental health as a whole, is getting somewhere into that field once my post-wrestling career is done in ring.
Yeah, that's very commendable, man, and congrats. Fantastic.
Thank you.
Man. What was your favorite wrestling move as a kid?
Either Stone Cold Stunner or the Rock Bottom, just because it was the easiest. Stone Cold Stunner you could do anywhere, and then the Rock Bottom into the pool was always fun. So
Amazing. If you could choose any song out there as your entrance theme, what song would you pick?
Alice in Chains Rooster. That would be my go-to of it. I think it's got a good little slow lead in, and it's got a lot of backstory of who I am and what my MOS was in the Marine Corps, and that was being an 0331, which was an infantry machine gunner. So the song's about a rooster's nest, which used to be a gun nest in Vietnam times. It was considered, and I don't know, it just fits the mold a little bit in that grungy style.
Amazing, man. Who was your first wrestling crush?
Ooh. Sonny would have been my first wrestling crush. Then I went to Trish. Trish stole my heart as a teenager. So don't tell my wife. Well, my wife's gonna see this, but don't tell her that.
And who is your dream tag team partner from maybe any era of wrestling?
Roddy Piper. He's been my dream opponent, just because it's just somebody I watched growing up with my grandmother, who she loved, and I don't know, just something about him, just that grittiness and that style, and just you never knew what he was going to do next type of mannerisms. It just was always something there, and I thought I probably could have learned a lot from him as well.
Amazing, man. Let's segue from that into your current partners, the Rascals. What made you team up with them, and what do you see some of yourself in them as well?
Yeah, I see the little arrogant, dumb kid that I once was when I first stepped foot on a pair of yellow footprints, getting into the fleet in the Marine Corps, and just being a little pain in the butt, I should say. And that's kind of what they are. They are the Rascals. They live up to the name, and they're so talented, both of them, Trey and Zach, for what they can do in and out of the ring, through the air, just everything. They're just so versatile with what they do. But they lack a little bit of discipline. So I think that's why I'm there, and I think that's what makes this work a little bit. And I know they didn't like the fact that I left them at sacrifice to go do the job on their own, but I had full faith in them as a tag team and former tag team champions in TNA, that they could have got the job done. Obviously, that night, the three of us didn't get the job done on our own, so we're back to the drawing board a little bit this Thursday in the sixth man against Nemeth and Speedball Mountain.
Do you like this kind of, when it comes to the storytelling aspect of pro wrestling, do you like this kind of odd couple where you are the serious one and maybe they are the goofy ones in this kind of partnership?
I do. I think it allows us to have a little bit more creative liberty and a little creative freedom to find something we never thought we'd be doing. Like, it allows me to be more entertaining in a way of just not being so serious and focused on being the best in the TNA as a singles wrestler going after the world title. So it allows me to kind of just joke around a little bit and have a little bit of fun. And kind of let my guard down a little bit, so I can just open up a little bit more, and then the fans can see a little different side of me. So that's the fun part about it too. And then also for them to just come out in camo, my merchandise, wear my front towards enemy shirt and saluting. I had a bunch of my Marine Corps buddies saying, "Hey, they need to fix that salute." I'm like, "Don't worry about it. It's fine. It's all part of the It's all part of the show." I was like, "They're not trying to disrespect anybody." And they even asked too. They're like, "Are we disrespecting anything?" You know, I'm like, "No, you guys are fun. You're not supposed to know this or be in any regulations of the military. So just have some fun with it."
Amazing, man. Let me throw a few names at you, new entrants to TNA, and what do you think they're all about and how they have been doing in TNA? How do you think Ash By Elegance is doing?
Oh, she's doing great. I've known her since I first started in said other company. When we got to NXT together, she was just starting, I think, in the ring as I got there. And to see her transformation from them all the way to main roster, and then even now just in TNA, it's just fun to sit and chat. And even for her to compliment me and for me to compliment her, of just letting your guard down and trying to come to somewhere where you're not constantly focused on with a microscope or told no. And it's just fun to just go out there and have fun and find yourself a little bit more than you probably previously had. And it's just good to open up more. And she's killing it right now. I'm excited to see what she keeps doing with Iceman. And it's pretty entertaining too. Reminds me of that little Rick Martel style a little bit.
Absolutely. What about Mustafa Ali?
Can't say enough about him. He's one hell of a talent. Even his character as a politician. I hate politicians. But he's always been a good guy to me. Never had a problem with him. And he was actually we had a tryout together in 2013 together. Go figure. And then here we are in 2024 as TNA's TNA, whatchamacallit, X Division champion. Sorry, threw my brain there for a second. And then here I am going back after the main title and being a former world champion. It's really cool to see. And
what about Hammerstone?
What a body guy, just a big ball of meat. I'm looking forward. We've only been able to lock horns once before on the Independence in New Jersey at one time, and that's another match I'm looking forward to somewhere down the line. And it's one hell of a challenge and an opponent. And for him to beat Josh the way he did the other night, granted it was a little cheap, but he got the job done. A win's a win.
Amazing, man. And so finally, we are here to talk about Impact on TNA Plus, which has the entire rich and illustrious history of the company. If you had to go back and watch a match as a fan, what is a match from Impact's wrestling, Impact's history or TNA's history that you'd want to go back and watch?
Samoa Joe, Kurt Angle. That feud was something else. Anything AJ, but Samoa Joe and Kurt Angle, those two just had great chemistry, and the way Joe accelerates and his intensity compared to Kurt's just relentless intensity at that time, it's unmatched.
Amazing, man. I think we're out of time. So do you have a message for your fans in India? And this is pretty much a global platform, so anywhere else in the world?
Turn in on Eurosport to TNA every Thursday. I assume it airs on Thursdays by you, right?
I'll have to check, but we'll cut this by
well, whenever it does there, please tune in to TNA. Use the TNA Plus app, where you can watch all from the past to now and the future. We got Rebellion coming up. We can watch the replay of Sacrifice of myself and Nic Nemeth tearing the house down and stealing the show. If you want to follow me, it's at Steve Maclin at Twitter and on Instagram. I have my shop on TNA shop as well for merchandise. I have my pro wrestling tees at Steve Maclin store. So just check it out, and I'm going to continue to bring the mayhem and hopefully come over there to India at some point, hopefully with TNA. Hopefully we get a run over there soon.
Fantastic, man. I think it's been around 8 years since TNA last came to India. So, yeah, it's time.
Well, hopefully we can change that within the next year and come over there and enjoy some live pro wrestling over there in India.
Amazing, man. Thank you so much for your time.
And thank you for having me.